Because after all, I've been told to include by people that I love listening to, historians like Mike Duncan, that, you Christians talk about Christmas, but really, you've just ripped it off from the pagans, right? This is just Saturnalia, or like pretty much every other Christian holiday. You guys just did a good job of co-opting that which already was and just using it for yourself. Essentially, you've colonized all of the good holidays. Well, that's always bothered me. And so I've done some of my own reading on it. And so the first thing I wanted to ask is, Wes, save Christmas for us Christians. Is that true? Were we just good at co-opting it, or is there a little bit more to the story?
When you look into the sources, what you find is that the leading contenders for this argument say something like the Roman festival of Sol Invictus. Well, that festival, we only find the sources for that being on December 25th in the 4th century. In fact, we have this guy Pliny the Younger in the early 2nd century who had already noted potentially a little hyperbolically that the Roman temples were being forsaken due to so many Christian converts. And then we have the Emperor Julian, who was emperor for 3 years in the 4th century, and he writes and he says that he's frustrated with the lack of pagan religious devotion to idols in his time, and he blames the Christians for this kind of pagan faith crisis. You have a number of early Christian writers discussing this, talking about the why, and then no evidence in sight of them saying, oh, and also, one of the reasons we did this is because Sol Invictus or Saturnalia, or, well, we really want you guys to come, and you're already used to this date, so.
The other thing I would say too is that to the extent people are saying, well, of course they wouldn't admit it. It's like, one of the things that I find so fascinating about the Bible is the fact that they're willing to admit all kinds of mistakes and ideas and sin and whatnot that you just don't generally see admitted by the authors themselves or by the people advancing a particular faith in ancient writings. You don't see a lot of examples of Egyptian pharaohs admitting to their faults, right? That's not right. But you still stole a bunch of pagan rituals with respect to your Christmas trees and your wreaths and all these other things that you do, all these other practices. What's the response to that? As one of my good friends said, if you change the words around, it's actually Satan.
Right.
So here's my question: what is the deal with Santa and how it's worked its way into the Christmas tradition? But in the end, when we're talking about good history, because that's essentially what this is we're trying to look back and we're trying to find what are the earliest writings, what are the earliest origins of these various traditions, and how do they evolve over time.